Carlos Sainz's podium placing performance at the Bahrain Grand Prix was a massive statement from the soon-to-be ex-Ferrari driver. Finishing just 2.5 seconds behind the Red Buller Sergio Perez showed that Ferrari are within touching distance of Red Bull, and this is only the start. Verstappen may have won the first battle, but an F1 season is a war, and Carlos Sainz is ready to show his team they made a mistake. As we start the countdown to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it's time to seriously look at whether this season is going to be a repeat of 2023, or if Ferrari are the team to take down Red Bull. With everything that's been happening off track since before this season began, it'd be easy to forget that there is a competitive sport attached to the Formula One media circus. Off track, scandal and politics have dominated headlines for weeks now, but considering what happened in the first race of the season, that probably shouldn't be that surprising. If we'd seen an incredible battle for the race win between Red Bull's Max Verstappen and literally anyone else, all we'd be talking about is a potential for an epic title battle, which we're all desperately craving. That didn't happen though, but things might not be as desperate as they seem. A simple view of the season opening Bahrain Grand Prix painted a bleak picture of the season ahead. After Max Verstappen won all but 3 races last year, we were all excited to see who would challenge him in 2024. He didn't just win those 19 races last season, he dominated the vast majority of them, completely unchallenged by his teammate Sergio Perez or any of the other 9 teams on the grid. In the lead up to the race in Bahrain, and even after qualifying had concluded, it looked like things might be close at the front of the grid, especially between Ferrari and Red Bull. Just like in 2023 though, Ferrari could almost touch Max's rear wing in qualifying, but once the race started, the Red Bull was just vastly superior to any other car out there. We're becoming quite used to seeing Max entering turn 1 while the chasing pack come round the final corner from lap 10 onwards, but in Bahrain there were signs that won't continue this season. The Red Bull's tyre degradation was shockingly low, there's no denying that. Max was able to nurse his tyres with the gentle caress of a master carpenter, creating some incredible sculpture. But when you're already 10 plus seconds ahead of everyone else, it's easy to not push. If someone had been able to challenge him in race pace, his soft touch with his tyres would have been challenged as well. In qualifying, Charles Leclerc showed that he can go faster than Verstappen on a single lap. Verstappen's pole lap was actually slower than the lap Charles Leclerc did in the Ferrari in Q2, when he went 0.014 seconds faster than the Dutchman's Q3 time. The battle between the two boils down to the Red Bull being faster on the straights and the Ferrari being faster around the turns. The 2 straight line sections in Sector 1 favoured the Red Bull, and by the time they arrived at the braking point for Turn 4, Verstappen was already 0.324 seconds ahead. Leclerc has to make all that up and more in the remainder of the lap, which he did. Now I know, I've already mentioned how in 2023 Ferrari could fight for poles but then fell well short during the race. That was normally because they destroyed their tyres far too easily, but that has changed this year. The Scuderia's winter development had a big focus on their tyre degradation, and the opinions after the first race of the season are that they have made some massive improvements. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz, who claimed that last podium spot behind the Red Bulls, was confident his car could match the Red Bulls in tyre degradation. I've been testing here for 3 days and seen through the practices that their tyre degradation on the softs was about the same as ours and everyone else is on the hard, he said. Unfortunately, once the race began, both Ferraris were held back by reliability issues. Leclerc was hindered by a severe brake imbalance across the front axle, and Sainz had a brake problem that persisted throughout his first stint. Leclerc's problem was so bad that there was a difference of over 100 degrees Celsius between the 2 brakes during the race, massively compromising the performance of one side over the other. That is a problem that can be fixed though, and should be sorted for this weekend's race in Saudi Arabia. Charles Leclerc is sure Ferrari are closer than they look to Red Bull's pace in Bahrain, at least on his side of the garage, after an issue-riddled Grand Prix on Saturday. Leclerc's right front brake problem cost him significant amounts of lap time during the race, with his car jutting to the right under braking and proving tough to control. Leclerc lost positions to George Russell and Sergio Perez in the early phase of the race, and was also passed by teammate Carlos Sainz. While he was able to force Russell into an error late on, he missed out on a podium spot to Sainz. Leclerc complained over the radio that he was experiencing front locking everywhere and called the situation dangerous. At one stage, he nearly collided with the stake F1 Team Kick Sauber car of Valtteri Bottas after snatching a break at turn 10. The data shows that Leclerc was losing 6/10 for roughly the first 20 laps of the race relative to the potential of his car. The issue eased in the final stint a little when the car had burned off most of its fuel, enabling the Monegasque to mount an attack on Russell. That's a minimum of 12 seconds of race time that he lost, and that's just in the first 20 laps. Taking 12 seconds off his finishing time puts him in competition with Carlos Sainz, and who knows how much further ahead he could have been without the problem. Both cars should have been able to battle Perez and at least put a little pressure on Verstappen. After the race, Leclerc explained just how bad the problem was for him. Again, it wasn't a small issue. It felt really bad, so I had to change a lot the way I was driving, and I had to sacrifice a lot of braking points. So all in all, I think there was quite a bit of performance in it, but how much is difficult to say. I'm quite surprised when I was hearing the pace at the end of the race because we were doing relatively good lap times with a car that was completely out of place, he explained. Charles, Sainz and us fans will have to wait until Saudi Arabia to see what the real performance gap is, but we know for sure that it wasn't as bad as it appeared in Bahrain. In 2023, Ferrari finished almost 50 seconds behind Verstappen in Bahrain, so they've at least halved that deficit. What we do know is that Ferrari are now in a position where they can actually attack Red Bull, instead of having to hold back in fear of ruining tyres. Carlos Sainz expressed relief at the performance of Ferrari's new SF24, insisting he has a car that he can attack with for the first time since Austria last year. Sainz now feels he finally has a car that allows him to be aggressive and fight for victories, offering a glimmer of hope for a more competitive season for Ferrari in 2024. It's a bit of a relief because the last race where I was attacking was Austria, and we're talking about 14 races ago, Carlos said. And then the rest of the races last year, you just had to manage, look in the mirrors, control your pace. And there was very little opportunities to go and overtake people. I love going racing, and I love going overtaking, being aggressive, attacking. And with last year's car, it was simply impossible to do that. I remember at the car launch saying this year, I wish we had a car to go racing and attack people. And I don't care too much about the tyres. And it's exactly what we got. I got an attacking car, a really good race pace, and from there, everything felt really good to finish P3. I enjoyed it a lot. Not having to constantly worry about how their tyres are going to handle a faster car, the Ferrari mechanics can now chase raw performance with their upgrades. While Red Bull may have appeared in another class again in Bahrain, don't be fooled, Ferrari aren't that far behind. Do you think the Scuderia has what it takes to challenge Max? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.